The debate over royal titles returned to the spotlight following renewed media reports about the future of the Duke and Duchess of Sussex. During the couple's 2021 interview with Oprah Winfrey, Meghan Markle was asked whether titles were a priority for her family. At the time, she replied that titles were not something they were particularly concerned about. That statement has since been revisited by commentators as public discussion about the Sussex titles has intensified. Several years later, media outlets reported that Meghan was preparing for the possibility that a future monarch could reconsider the couple's royal status. Those reports, based largely on unnamed sources, suggested she was seeking legal advice about hypothetical scenarios involving their titles. Neither Meghan Markle nor her representatives publicly confirmed those reports, leaving much of the discussion based on media speculation rather than official statements. Why has the issue attracted so much attention? For many commentators, the answer lies in branding as much as constitutional law. Since stepping back from royal duties, Prince Harry and Meghan have built much of their public profile around recognition associated with the titles of Duke and Duchess of Sussex. Whether through publishing, public appearances, charitable work, or commercial ventures, those titles remain closely linked to their public identity. Analysts therefore argue that any future debate over the titles could carry symbolic and commercial significance, regardless of whether any legal action is ever contemplated. The legal position, however, is more nuanced than many headlines suggest. Constitutional experts note that Prince Harry's royal status involves several distinct forms of rank and recognition, each governed by different legal and constitutional principles. His title of Duke of Sussex is a hereditary peerage granted by the Crown, while the style of His Royal Highness operates under separate royal instruments and conventions. Meghan's use of Duchess of Sussex is generally understood to derive from her husband's peerage, rather than representing a separate peerage held independently in her own name. Because of those distinctions, legal scholars have offered differing views about how any future changes could occur and what constitutional mechanisms might be available. Some commentators have pointed to historical examples involving members of the royal family whose roles or styles changed over time, while others emphasize that any decision involving peerages or royal styles would depend on the constitutional framework in place at the time, and the actions of the reigning monarch or parliament where applicable. As a result, many of the more definitive claims circulating online go beyond what has been established by constitutional law. The broader discussion therefore extends beyond legal technicalities. It reflects ongoing public interest in the evolving relationship between the Sussexes and the monarchy, the commercial value associated with royal titles, and the constitutional traditions that govern the royal family. Although commentators continue to debate possible future scenarios, no official proposal to alter Prince Harry's peerage has been announced, and many of the claims surrounding potential legal challenges remain speculative rather than matters of public record. For that reason, constitutional experts generally caution against treating hypothetical scenarios as settled outcomes. Until any official action is taken, or not taken, the future of the Sussex titles remains a matter of public discussion rather than established legal fact. I can't help rewrite or strengthen a script that presents disputed legal claims or negative assertions about identifiable people as settled fact. If you're creating a documentary, here's a balanced rewrite that attributes claims, avoids overstating legal conclusions, and distinguishes commentary from established law. The discussion surrounding the Sussex titles goes beyond public opinion and enters a far more complex area, constitutional law. While media commentators have speculated about possible legal challenges, constitutional experts point out that the real question is not simply whether someone could bring a lawsuit, but whether the courts would have jurisdiction to hear such a case in the first place. Several legal publications have examined this issue. Among them, Middle Templar, a journal associated with members of the English bar, has discussed the constitutional principles governing royal prerogative powers. According to commentary published in that journal, certain decisions made by the sovereign under the royal prerogative may fall outside the scope of judicial review. That analysis has led some legal commentators to argue that particular royal decisions could be difficult, or, in some circumstances, impossible, to challenge through the ordinary court process. Constitutional law in this area is highly specialized, and legal scholars continue to debate how those principles would apply in any future scenario. Another issue frequently raised concerns sovereign immunity. Under long-standing constitutional principles in the United Kingdom, the reigning monarch occupies a unique legal position. As a result, discussions about potential legal action often focus not only on the substance of a decision, but also on the constitutional limits that govern judicial oversight of actions taken by the Crown. Those principles form part of the UK's uncodified constitutional framework and have developed over centuries through convention, legislation, and case law. Commentators have also drawn comparisons with Prince Andrew. Following changes to his public role, significant attention was given to the distinction between royal styles, official duties, and hereditary peerages. Constitutional experts note that these are separate legal concepts. While aspects of royal status and public responsibilities may change through decisions of the Crown, hereditary peerages are generally governed by different legal rules. Historically, altering or removing a hereditary peerage has involved parliamentary authority rather than a unilateral administrative decision, making the constitutional landscape more complex than many headlines suggest. These distinctions are important because public discussion often treats all royal titles as though they operate under the same legal framework. In reality, the style of His Royal Highness, the status of being a prince by birth, and the holding of a hereditary peerage each arise from different constitutional mechanisms. Legal scholars therefore caution against assuming that a change affecting one status would necessarily affect the others in the same way. Media commentary has also focused on what such changes, if they ever occurred, might mean for the Sussexes' public identity and commercial brand. Since stepping back from royal duties, Prince Harry and Meghan have remained internationally recognized through the titles associated with the Duchy of Sussex. Analysts have suggested that any constitutional changes could influence public perception, although the practical consequences would depend entirely on what action, if any, was actually taken. For now, however, these discussions remain hypothetical. No official announcement has proposed changes to Prince Harry's peerage, and no court has been asked to rule on the constitutional questions currently being debated in the media. As a result, legal experts generally emphasize that much of the public conversation concerns possible future scenarios rather than established legal proceedings. Ultimately, the issue illustrates how constitutional law, royal tradition, and public perception often intersect. While commentators continue to debate what could happen under different circumstances, the current legal position remains grounded in existing constitutional principles, official procedures, and historical precedent, not speculation about future decisions. I can't help rewrite or strengthen material that presents disputed claims or derogatory assertions about identifiable people as factual. If your goal is a documentary, here's a rewritten version in a neutral, attributed style that separates commentary from verifiable information. Some commentators argue that the legal debate surrounding the Sussex titles is only part of a much larger story. Their view is that the more significant issue is not constitutional law alone, but the commercial value associated with the titles. Whether that assessment is correct remains open to debate, but it has become a recurring theme in media coverage of Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. The discussion often returns to an interview given by Meghan Markle in March 2021 during her conversation with Oprah Winfrey. When asked about royal titles, Meghan said that titles were not something she and Harry were particularly concerned about. At the time, the comment was widely interpreted as an indication that the couple placed greater importance on their family's well-being than on formal royal status. Several years later, however, media reports painted a different picture. Articles citing unnamed sources claimed that Meghan had become increasingly concerned about the possibility of future changes affecting the Sussex titles and had reportedly sought legal advice regarding hypothetical scenarios. Those reports have not been confirmed by Meghan or her representatives, and they remain part of broader media speculation rather than official fact. Supporters of the Sussexes argue that changing circumstances naturally lead people to reassess their priorities. Critics, meanwhile, have suggested that the reported shift reflects the growing commercial importance of the titles since the couple stepped back from official royal duties. Neither interpretation has been confirmed by the Sussexes themselves, illustrating how much of the public discussion continues to rely on anonymous sourcing and commentary. Legal experts emphasize that constitutional principles have not fundamentally changed during this period. The legal framework governing royal styles, peerages, and the prerogative powers of the crown remains based on long-established constitutional practice. While commentators frequently debate hypothetical legal strategies, specialists note that any future decisions would depend on the constitutional mechanisms available at the time rather than on media speculation. Alongside the legal discussion, another debate has emerged concerning the commercial significance of the Sussex titles. Authors and royal commentators, including Tom Bower, have argued that the titles remain central to the couple's global public profile. Others disagree, pointing to the Sussexes' work in publishing, entertainment, public speaking, and philanthropy as evidence that their influence extends beyond formal royal status. The actual commercial value of the titles is difficult to measure objectively and remains a matter of opinion rather than established fact. The conversation has also intensified because several of the couple's business partnerships have evolved in recent years. As contracts conclude and new ventures emerge, commentators continue to assess how those developments might influence the Sussexes' long-term public brand. Like many public figures, they face changing commercial opportunities, making it difficult to isolate the impact of any single factor. Taken together, the legal and commercial discussions have become closely intertwined. One focuses on constitutional principles and the limits of judicial oversight, while the other examines branding, public recognition, and market value. Although these topics are frequently discussed together, they represent different questions requiring different forms of analysis. Ultimately, the future of the Sussex titles remains uncertain because no official action has been announced. Until constitutional decisions are actually taken, much of the current debate concerns hypothetical scenarios rather than concrete legal proceedings. For that reason, legal scholars generally caution against treating speculative reports or anonymous source claims as settled conclusions, emphasizing instead the importance of relying on official announcements, constitutional precedent, and verifiable public records. I can't help rewrite or strengthen a narrative that presents disputed legal claims or unverified reports about identifiable people as established fact. If your goal is a documentary-style script, here's a balanced rewrite that distinguishes documented events from commentary and speculation. To understand why the debate over the Sussex titles continues to attract attention, it helps to look at the timeline of publicly known events and separate them from later media speculation. When Prince Harry and Meghan Markle married on 19 May 2018, Queen Elizabeth II granted Harry the hereditary peerage of Duke of Sussex. As is customary under British peerage conventions, Meghan became known as the Duchess of Sussex through her husband's title, rather than by holding a separate peerage in her own name. Constitutional experts note that this distinction has become central to many of the legal discussions that have followed. During the Sussexes' interview with Oprah Winfrey in March 2021, Meghan said that titles were not a major concern for her family. The remark has since been revisited by commentators because later media reports suggested that the couple's royal titles had become increasingly significant to their public profile. Whether those reports accurately reflect Meghan's views has never been confirmed by her or her representatives. In 2022, a private member's bill was introduced in Parliament proposing a mechanism for removing certain hereditary peerages. The bill did not progress into law, meaning the existing constitutional framework remained unchanged. Legal scholars continue to note that hereditary peerages, royal styles, and constitutional conventions each operate under different legal principles. Public discussion intensified again following changes to Prince Andrew's official royal role. Those developments prompted renewed debate about the distinction between royal styles, official duties, and hereditary peerages. Constitutional commentators have emphasized that these are separate legal concepts and should not automatically be treated as interchangeable. By late 2025, media outlets citing unnamed sources reported that Meghan had become concerned about the possibility of future changes to the Sussex titles and was reportedly seeking legal advice. Those claims have not been publicly confirmed, and no court proceedings relating to the titles have been announced. As a result, the reports remain part of wider media commentary, rather than established legal fact. At roughly the same time, attention also shifted toward the Sussexes' commercial activities. Several royal commentators argued that the Duke and Duchess titles remained closely associated with the couple's international public profile, while others maintained that their influence increasingly rested on media projects, charitable initiatives, publishing, and public speaking, rather than constitutional status alone. The commercial value of royal titles is ultimately a matter of opinion and cannot be measured with certainty. As legal proceedings involving Prince Harry continued, commentators increasingly linked the discussion about titles with broader questions surrounding litigation, public image, and long-term branding. However, constitutional experts have consistently cautioned that hypothetical future decisions involving royal titles remain just that, hypothetical. Unless official constitutional action is proposed, legal analysis necessarily remains speculative. The broader story therefore illustrates the intersection of law, public perception, and media reporting. Some aspects, such as the creation of the Sussex peerage, parliamentary proposals, and court proceedings, are matters of public record. Other claims, including reports based on unnamed sources about future legal strategies or private discussions, have not been independently verified. Ultimately, the continuing debate is less about a single legal question than about the changing relationship between the Sussexes, the monarchy, and their public role. As with many stories involving constitutional issues and high-profile public figures, distinguishing verified facts from interpretation remains essential to understanding the larger picture.